see Nancy is here. I know you've got a brief one. Probably by the time you walk up here, we have this. I believe this, good evening. Part of your request with library technology, this is part of the capital plan that Jim Sanderson had put together, it's last year. Instead of trying to say, oh my God, we need computers, just try to put some sense into purchasing hardware and replacing as need be. Does anyone have any questions?
Or do you want me to? We're on a regular replacement system.
Right.
As you know, we have lots and lots of computers in the library, and they're being used more and more heavily. The library is being used more and more heavily, I will say. A lot of people doing their resumes and job searching and all sorts of things going on. So we are on a regular cycle for replacing computers throughout the library and request the money. We have a couple of special projects coming up this year. We're, with Jim's help, trying to get video conferencing set up in the Chase Room and hoping maybe this is an income producing possibility for us. And we're also going to upgrade our training room, and conceivably that would be a potential income raising circumstance too. This week we've just consolidated our 2 circulation desks, and there may be some minor, shall we say, computer equipment requirements there also. So that's
Don't oversell it.
Yeah, right.
Don't oversell it. Does anyone have any questions on this? Go ahead, Dan.
How does this compare to the library's capital request in prior years?
We have requested about $8,000 for computer upgrade.
Pretty standard?
Pretty standard on an annual basis, yes.
Okay.
Okay. No other questions?
Okay.
Thank you very much. That was fairly painless. Okay. Ray, do you want to cover the remainder, parks and roads, recreation?
Well, it's Parks and Roads and Public Works for roads and parks is 0, so that's an easy one. David had made a request, he withdrew it in recognition of tight budgetary times. On recreation, obviously there's 3 categories. For those following along, it's turf fields, there was a request of $500,000, Rosedale Field and Dodge Field in the amount of $340,000 and $60,000 respectively. That's based on a recommendation from T&M Associates. I believe it's been discussed with the Recreation Committee with Dr. Esposito being part of the presentation to the group, and it was discussed at a council meeting previously. It's not in what's called the recommended column. It's deferred to the governing body for your decision and to make a recommendation as to the expenditure, whether to proceed, and if so, to identify what potential funding source. We've identified 2 potential funding sources, the General Capital Fund, and you have the balances for that. The Open Space Trust Fund, you have the balances for that. There's obviously the opportunity to pursue grants and or to finance, which we would not recommend additional financing at this point. So that's a, right now it's a governing body decision. That's why we didn't put a figure in that column. It's similar to the elevator at the Civic Center. It's basically, obviously, it's something that you have to decide what you'd like to do and tell us what you'd like to do, and we'll implement what you want us to do and where you want us to fund it from. So I'm not kicking it back to you, but I think it's something that you have to decide amongst yourselves.
Sastry, do you want to say anything on this?
No, I don't think so yet.
Okay, all
I'll
right.
see how the discussion goes.
Okay. Dan? Oh, let me down. Anyone else have any
I mean, we do have a
questions on this
we have a second budget hearing on capital, right? The next budget meeting is on capital. So, I mean, this doesn't have to be discussed at length or decided tonight.
No,
Obviously, there's
no.
people who'd like to be heard on other topics. You should maybe want to take their input, and then at the next capital budget hearing, which I forget the date, but Marilyn, 2 weeks, will be in effect the finalization of this list. So that would give you time to get input, reflect upon it, do further research, discuss it.
Yeah, well, as I see it, when you go back to some of the discussions we've had tonight, how can we put together projects which require other pieces to be in place? For example, with Mike, the lights and the pavement. It seems to me, and then Robert Vogel's piece with sewer replacement and roads, we need to know what's down the road for us in terms of cost.
You've been hanging out with Conley.
I know. So that it may turn this picture around a little bit, and there may be funds of money that now seem to appear for some projects that we have not funded yet. That's all I wanted to say.
We move on to the police department.
Police department was what Bob discussed, which was the upgrade. Other than that,
That's it?
they've withdrawn
Okay.
all requests. Fire department did not submit any requests in recognition of a new building and the fact that they have a fire trust fund to fund their capital needs. And basically, there are no other capital requests from any other department.
But it just should be noted that the police department did put in 181,000 of requests and then cut it back as a result of wanting to do their part.
Correct.
250,000, okay. I think we've done the ordinances already adopted. All right. Does anybody else have any comments
Mayor?
on this? Yes.
If I could just ask one more question of Robert. Getting again to your last page, on the general capital fund, I'd asked you earlier, and also Jeannie had asked you, when you take out the monies that's being proposed to be spent this year, what would we be left with? And we came up with a figure of 2.8. So now, assuming that's
2.8 is correct, but that does not include any action taken on the recreation projects.
Understood.
And the elevator.
So
that would be in addition to the 1.6 million of new projects.
Gotcha. But just leaving that aside for now with the 2.8, how does that compare to prior balances in prior years? That strikes me as very low.
It is very low.
Is it the lowest? And when was it last that low? If you know.
It would have to be in the early 1990s.
So we have effectively been...
And the reason for that is, as I've mentioned to several of you in the last several weeks, January 1st, 1994 was the watershed date when we entered into the new area of deregulation with purchase power. We had low-cost purchase power 15 years ago. On January 1, we reduced it by about 35%, and that opened the door to extremely large surpluses that we did two things with, which were extremely beneficial. We reduced taxation significantly to the tune of, on average, $3 million, but for the first time we began to transfer very large sums of capital out of the electric utility to pay-as-you-go, which gave rise to the fact that we did not bond from 1991 to 2008. So we are transferring anywhere from $1 to $3 million per year from the electric utility to do capital projects. In addition, we're raising smaller sums from the taxpayer in the order of $500,000 or $600,000 a year, and then in the years 2003, 4, 5, and 6, we raised nothing from the taxpayers whatsoever. All capital dollars was being funded from available resources as well as transfers from the electric utility, and now with the electric utility transfers being shut off, large sums of capital invested in our infrastructure and equipment, and only raising $500,000 from the General Capital Improvement Fund, that's where we are with the balance.
I mean,
Any other
what's
questions,
not
Rob?
in there, which we probably, a piece of good news would be, as we do asset sales, those funds, if any, would go into the general capital improvement. So besides the $500,000 per year we fund through the budget, as we are hopefully developing 22 Orchard and preparing it to go back to the market in a clean condition and hopefully get a higher bid, that would be available. When we finish Hartley Dodge project and this governing body's declared that 10 Maple has been surplus property, that would be available, and the proceeds from that would go back into the pot. So there are some non-recurring events in terms of asset sales that have been identified that would supplement the balance in this
And I
account.
do